Hello, fifth graders. Today is Wednesday, October 7th, and you are watching this writing lesson asynchronously. We are on day 18 of launching strong habits and routines in reading and writing. So today we're going to work on how can I write to entertain my readers. Our objectives: I can come up with a story idea and entertain my readers by writing a narrative notebook entry. I can write a notebook entry to entertain my readers with a memory or a fictional story. You'll need a writing notebook and a pencil or pen for today's work. We're going to start with our writing warm-up like we always do. So to get ready, open up your writing notebook, put today's date at the top with the word warm-up, so it's 10/7/2020. I'll give you a second to get that ready. Okay, and on the next slide we're going to look at our prompt for today, and you'll have 4 minutes of writing. So here's our prompt. If you were locked in a toy store overnight, what would you do? All right, remember to keep your pencil moving for 4 minutes, starting now. right, and the 4 minutes is now over, so please stop writing, set your writing notebook aside, and get ready for the vocabulary preview. So one word to review is fiction, a made-up story, books that are not true stories. We know the word fiction means false. These can be realistic fiction, mysteries, historical fiction, or which is realistic fiction set in the past. Nonfiction, writing that is about facts or real events. We know it's not false if it's nonfiction. Personal narratives are nonfiction stories. They are about real events from your life. A narrative is another word for a story, usually organized by beginning, middle, end. A narrative can be fiction or nonfiction, but it's told in story form. Almost all fiction is narrative. Some nonfiction is narrative. Biographies and personal narratives are examples of narrative nonfiction. They are true stories told in story form. So our mini lesson for today, writers write for many reasons. One reason writers write is to entertain their readers. Narratives are stories that are written to entertain. Although later in the year you will work on a more complex narrative writing project, today we're going to learn to write a narrative notebook entry to entertain a reader. One type of narrative you might choose to write is a personal narrative. This is a true story of one small moment from your life. First times, last times, happy times, sad times, and times when you learned something make great personal narratives. Like the time I got my puppy, or the time I hung out with my grandpa, the time I lied to my parents and got caught. One type of narrative you might choose to write is a realistic fiction story. This is a made-up story about realistic kids having realistic problems. They might have friendship problems, school problems, pet problems, and family problems. Those all make strong realistic fiction stories. Like a runner who has to run a race against her best friend, or a boy who tricks the principal into letting him be the substitute teacher. A brother and sister who start a dog walking business. Another type of narrative you might choose to write is a fantasy story. This is a made-up story that could not happen in real life because it involves talking animals, magical creatures, superpowers, fairy tale kingdoms, time travel, evil villains, and portals to other worlds. Those are all common in fantasy. But often fantasy has characters, main characters that feel like real people. Like a girl who falls into a world of trolls and has to escape. A kid who discovers he is half alien and the only one who can save his father's planet. Siblings who find a magical pen. Everything they write with it comes true. In a narrative writing notebook entry, you will practice writing to entertain. Every time you write a narrative entry, you will come up with the story idea that you want to write about. Figure out the characters, the problem, and the solution. Even if it's a personal narrative, spend some time remembering the small moment. If it's fiction, spend some time picturing the story. All right, so get out your idea list that you worked on developing last week. You'll remember that's the thing that you worked on last Wednesday, your last asynchronous day. So open up to that page where you have your story ideas. And I want you to add to it. We're going to today add possible story ideas. And I want you to make a list of possible story ideas. They could be personal narratives, things that have really happened to you. They could be ideas for realistic fiction, things that could happen in real life, or some fantasy ideas. Some ideas about magical talking creatures, mythical beings. Here are some examples. The time I broke my arm, a kid whose phone is evil and takes over his life, a story about a brother and sister who start a dog walking business that gets out of control. So I'm going to have you pause the video here and spend a few minutes developing your list. Once you have 3 or 4 items on your list, go ahead and hit play to resume this video. Push yourself to keep your pencil moving the whole time. Remember, it's normal for this to feel hard. Writing gets easier with practice. Don't worry about being perfect. Spelling mistakes are okay. You don't need to finish everything in your plan. Just write for 10 straight minutes. So from those story ideas that you just listed, I want you to pick one, and you're going to write that story idea at the top. And you're going to write for 20 minutes working on that story. Remember, you don't have to write the entire thing. It doesn't have to be perfect. Don't worry about spelling. Just work for 20 minutes getting your thoughts on paper. I'm going to have you stop the video and watch the clock so that you know when 20 minutes is up. And then on Schoology today, you're going to let us know how that writing went. You could show it to us. You could make a video telling us about it. You could read it to us in a video. We would love to hear how your writing went. Okay?